Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to use core data and open up your Xcode, create a new project and choose an empty application and then click next. And I'll give you a little bit of background on core data before we begin. So core data is pretty much a persistence framework that's provided by Apple, and it interfaces directly with the SQLite. So SQLite, you can think of it as like when you use SQLite, you're using like a relation. So you work with columns and rows, but with core data, you work with it in terms of objects. So alright, so my product name, I'm gonna call it core data tutorial, and alright, we're gonna use iPhone, and then make sure to click this core data and make sure to click this use automatic reference counting. Alright, so use core data, use automatic reference counting, iPhone, and we're ready to begin. Click next and create your project. And so when we do empty application, it only comes up with 3 files: the appdelegate.h, appdelegate.m, which has all these extra core data stack methods where these are added in for us when we check the use core data. And here's our file that we want to look at: core data tutorials. Oh, add a z in there, xc data model d. Alright, so for this I'm gonna have an entity. It will be like an object that we'll be focusing on. So for this entity, I'm gonna call it person. So our person will be pretty simple. Our person will have a first name and a last name, and we do that by adding attributes. So in the attribute section, just click the plus sign and say person, not person, sorry, and say first name. And again, click the plus sign and say last name. We can add more information if we want it, but tutorial, hopefully I'll keep it kind of short. So it will just have a first name and a last name, which are strings. And if it's not running too long, I'll add another entity, which will be a subclass of which the person will be a subclass. So it will extend the person's functionalities. But for now, for this tutorial, let's just add person. So go to File, New File, and then we're going to create a person like a model file. So ns, choose Cocoa Touch, Objective-C class, choose Next, and it'll be a subclass of ns object, and the class I'm just going to call it person. Click Next and then create. So a person, again, we'll just have a first name and last name. So just do property, non-atomic, and strong, and just say ns string first name, and that property, non-atomic, strong, ns string last name. Alright, so those are our 2 properties for person. And in the person.m, in the Xcode 4.5, we don't need to synthesize that anymore, so that's a little bit easier for us. And now go to File, New, and then New File. Now we're gonna create the view controller for our application. So Cocoa Touch, Objective-C class. This time it will be a subclass of UI view controller, and our class name will be view controller. And make sure to click with zip for user interface. Have that checked, and then click next and create. So it should create 3 files for us: a view controller header, view controller implementation, and a view controller.zip. And when we do a view and in our view controller .zip, we're gonna have a text field. This will be for our first name, placeholder text, first name, another text field. This one will be for last name. last name, and another a round rect button. This one I'm just gonna call it add person. Alright, so in this tutorial I'll show you how to do the 3 operations that you basically need to do with any kind of database storage, which is like add something, search for something, and delete something. So I'm gonna have a button called add person. I have a button called search person, and I'm gonna have another button called delete person. Alright, and I'm gonna have a label here. This label will be used to display our information, like whatever's going on. We can display it here on our label. Like when we add a person, we can say something. When we search for a person, we can say something. So alright, so in our viewcontroller.zip we have these here: 2 text field, 3 buttons, and a label. So again, make our connections. Alright, I'm just gonna do control click drag, first name text field, type UI text field, storage weak, and then again control click drag for the last name text field, type UI text field, storage is weak. Do the same thing for the label, control click drag, calling it display label, type UI label, storage weak. And for the 3 buttons, don't forget to change the connection type to an action. Name is add person button, type is ID, event touch up inside, argument sender. Do the same thing for search, but connection type action, name search button, connect. For delete, control click drag, change connection to action, name delete button. Alright, so those are our actions and outlet, and we're done for our view controller. And now we have to do something here in our view controller. Oh, in the header file, here, let me hide this here. In our header file, don't forget to add the UI text field delegate. That's to deal with hiding the keyboard issue. So add that in your view controller.h, and in your view controller.m do self first name text field, set delegate, self, and self, last name text field, set delegate, self. Alright, that's just to make sure our keyboard gets hidden when we hit enter. So don't forget text field should return, and then just return text field resign first responder. Alright, so from that, when we hit the return key, our keyboard will be hidden. And now we're ready to do the core data stuff. Alright, let me do one more thing in our app delegate.m, because I don't want to forget this later. So import your view controller.h, because we have to do this because since we started as a empty application, you need to set the root view controller of a window, because normally when we do a single view application, this part gets done for us. So here, import the view controller.h, view controller vc equals view controller alloc init, and then do self.window set root view controller vc. Alright, and then that sets our root view controller to this right here. So when the app launches, you actually see this screen right here. So that takes care of that in the app delegate. And alright, now we're ready to do some stuff. Alright, so in here, create an instance variable called nsManageObjectContext. I'm gonna call it context. And in our view did load, oops, here, import one more thing. In our view controller.m, import our app delegate.h, and in our view did load, we're gonna create an instance of it called app delegate equals not UI shared, sorry, it's called UI application shared application delegate. Alright, and from there we're gonna say context equals app delegate, the pointer we've just created, and we're gonna say manage object context. So that's gonna be our ns manage object context here. Alright, and that's it for our view did load. Now let's go to our add person button. So this we're gonna add a person to, we're gonna add like whatever's in our first name and last name text field to the database. So we start off by saying ns entity description entity desc equals ns entity description entity for name, and our name will be whatever name we gave it here. So our entity's name is person with a capital P, so we type that in here. @ quotation mark person. In manage object context is going to be context, and then from there do a ns manage object context. Ns manage object only, ns manage object, and I'm gonna call this one new person equals ns manage object context alec init with entity, and the entity is an entity description we've just created into manage object context. Alright, so that creates a ns manage object new person pointer, and now we'll set the value of the new person. So new person set value for key. So set value will be whatever value was in our first name text field. So say self.firstname text field.text for key, and the key will be whatever keys we have here. So the key is first name and the key is last name. Alright, for key first name, a new person, set value self.lastname.text for key last name. Alright, because that is what we have here, last name. Okay, back to our view controller implementation file, and then from there we say ns error. We need to create a pointer to an ns error object, and then we can say let's see, context save, and our argument would be &error. Alright, so that just from that it should save a person to our database. So let's run it. Actually, when we're done saving, let's also say person got saved. So our label's name was called display label. Alright, so we can say self.displaylabel.text equals person added there. And then let's run it and see if it works. If not, then we can try to fix it. Alright, so here's our simulator. Now let's try to add our first name and last name. So first name iffy, last name the perfect. Add person there. Let me hit enter so it goes away. Person added. Alright, so let's look at our demo. here. Mine is called Core Data Tutorials. Is the first one that I was practicing with. So let me show you how to get there first. So you get there by going to library. When you go to library, go to application support. And when you go to application support, go to iPhone simulator and go to your 6.0, which is the simulator that I'm assuming you guys have. And go to your application and find the one that says, find the one with your name, with the name of your application. So for mine, I call it Core Data Tutorials. And just go to your documents and your table should be there. So double click to open it, and then you can see it. For me, I'm using a program called SQLite Database Browser to view my SQLite table. So that's what we've added. Let's add a couple more persons in there. So Iffy the Perfect, that's one. Let's add in John Smith, because that's classic. So John Smith, he seems to get added to everything. So John Smith, add person. There, person added again. Let's add one more. Who's good? Jane Doe. I hear that name a lot too. Alright. John Smith, Jane Doe, and who else? John Doe. Alright. Alright, so now we have 4 people in our database, so let's make sure. This program doesn't refresh itself, so that's how I refresh it. I go there, I click on another table, and then I go back, and then it refreshes. So first name Iffy, last name the Perfect, John Doe, Jane Doe, and John Doe. So those are the first name and last names automatically created for us. Not automatically, but yeah, in Z person, and that's a SQLite. When you look at it, it's a SQLite database that Core Data has created for us. So alright, so that was the adding. That was adding person. Now we do a search. When we do a search, we have to do the same, like the same beginning. NS entity description. Do entity description. Entity des equals NS entity description. Entity for name, and the name will be the same name as before at person. In manage object context will be context, and do a NS manage object. Oops, no, for this you don't need it. You just need NS fetch request. NS fetch request, there it is. NS fetch request, call it request, and in request you do NS fetch request Alec init, and then from there you set the request, set entity to be the entity description that you've just created. Then from there you need a NS predicate. NS predicate equals NS predicate with format, and I'm gonna say the predicate with format is like what you want to search for. So I'm gonna search with the first name and last name, so I'm just gonna say first name like %at and last name like %at. So you're searching by both first name and last name, and your arguments that you're sending it would be self.firstname textfield.text, and second argument is self.lastname textfield.text. Alright, so that's your predicate, and then we're gonna say request set predicate, and then predicate will be this predicate that we're gonna set is predicate, the one that we have just created. Then again do NS error pointer to an error object, and then do ns array, call it matching data. This matching data array will be the array of that are the number, I mean the records that are predicate returns. So ns array matching data equals context. Oh no, not request. What's it called? Execute fetch request, and request is the parameter, and error is ampersand error. Alright, so what that does is it executes a request that is here. So this is the predicate, and we set the predicate to the request, and it executes this request, and it returns all the matching requests that is set by here into the matching data. So it returns it in an ns array. So an ns array, in the very end of this execute request, it'll have a count. So we can say if matching data dot count equals 0, that means it didn't find anything. Then we can say, actually we can say less than or equals to 0. And if matching data doesn't find anything, then we can say we can display something on our label called self.displayLabel.text equals no person found. Alright. And we can also say else self dot else we can have a ns string. I'm gonna call it first name ns string. I'm gonna call it last name, and then I'm gonna have what else? I think that's it. And then I'm just gonna use a fast enumeration to go through my matching data. So for ns manage object, and I'm gonna call these obj in matching data, and I'm gonna say f name, first name equals obj value for key. First name obj value for key, and it's gonna be first name, because that is the value that we have, the attribute name that we have here, first name. So that'll be that. And last name equals obj value for key last name. Alright. And then at the end, I'm thinking like I'm gonna display only the last thing, that's the last object that's found. So in the end, I'm just gonna say self.displayLabel.text equals first name %@ last name %@, and the arguments we pass it would be first name that is set here, and last name that is set here. Alright. Oops. I should do a ns string with format, and then that's our format. Okay. So what's going on here is when you have your matching data, you're checking if it found anything. So if it's less than or equals to 0, then we'll just say no person found. Or else it found something. So let's say it found more than one record. You would have a fast enumeration like this in order to go through of the record. But here, since I only have one label, to display our field. I'm going through all the records and it's assigning first name to the first name value that we found here in our matching data, and last name, I mean this last name NS string into the value that we found. So when it finds another one, it'll keep replacing the old first name and last name. I mean, you can do this for other purposes, but for this tutorial, when it does that, it'll only show you the last object that it finds. So here our first name and last name will only be the last, like the very latest. So for example, if we only check on the first name and we do John Smith and John Doe, it will only show John Doe instead of John Smith. So that's this right here. But for our search predicate, we're searching for both first name and last name that they have to match. So this issue of finding more than one record is not gonna come up, or not in this tutorial anyways. But just in case in the future, when you do, you can do something here in the fast enumeration for loop. All right, so let's check to make sure that our search function works. So run it on our iPhone simulator, and first name, I'm gonna call it, let's just call it John, and search person for now. It shouldn't find anything because I'm checking both. It's there, no person found. Alright, now I'm gonna say John Doe, search person, hit enter or return to make go right there. First name John, last name Doe. Let's search for John Smith. There, it found John Smith. Now let's search for John SM, search person, no person found. Alright, so our search works. And let me show you one more trick. You can do a star, because when you say like here, you can do a star for a regular expression, because otherwise you can say equals, let me see, can replace like with equals to get exact match. Or otherwise, if we don't do equals, the regular expression applies. So you can do John SM star and then do search person, and it'll still find John Smith for you. So that's a little trick in case you wanna find that useful somewhere. And now let's move on to our delete, because our search and our add seems to be working. Alright, so ns entity description, entity dsc equals ns entity description. Entity for name will be person again. Person in manage object will be context, and ns fetch request will be request equals ns fetch request alec init. It will be very similar to the search button functions, or like things that we have to do. So request set entity and entity description. Alright, and then again we have another ns predicate. Ns predicate equals ns predicate with format, and it's gonna say first name like %at. Alright, so I'm just gonna delete where it's by first name, so I'm not gonna check by last name. So for example, in this tutorial, if I say first name is John, it's gonna delete both of these records, John Smith and John Doe. So let's go back to our Xcode. I haven't done it yet, but it will do that. So self.firstname text field dot text, and then what do? We have request set predicate again, predicate ns error again with the ns array to hold our matching data. Matching data equals ns predicate. Oh, sorry. ns matching data is actually context, execute fetch request, and error is ampersand error. Alright, and again, if matching data dot count is less than or equals to 0, and we can say self dot display label dot text, no person deleted. Alright, so that's if we didn't find anything. Or else we can say ns string. No, we don't need that anymore. We can just do a not this for the fast enumeration. The for in, there we go. For ns manage object obj in matching data, we're going to delete it by saying context delete object obj. Alright, so it again, when we do the fetch request, it finds everything that matches this predicate and it holds it into matching data. So here, for all of the ns manage object in the matching data, it's going to delete each one of these objects within this for loop. And at the end, we just have to say context save, and the argument is error. Oops, R, and then that's our delete method. So let's run it on our iPhone simulator and hope that it works. So again, let's look at our database for now. Let me refresh it by choosing something else. There. So right now we still have four records in our database. All right. So now let's delete something. So let's delete. We're only doing by first name. So let's delete if and see if it deletes. It shouldn't right now, because it's not like an exact match and I didn't add a star. So delete person. Oops, it crashed. Let's see what happened. Alright, recent key patch, terminating app to uncaught exception, recent key path, first name not found. Alright, I see what happened. First name not found on delete. Oh, okay. Yeah, alright. You gotta have to be careful with this. My first name is lowercase n. Like that was right here. First name is lowercase n, but my mistake was that I had typed capital N right here. So you gotta watch out for that, and then again rerun it. I've just fixed it, so now there. Alright, no person deleted. Let me go if again, delete, no person deleted. That's good. IFFY, delete person. Well, it got deleted, but I should update something here too. So let me have a count. I'll have a count right here. And count equals 0, and then I'm gonna increment the count in here, and at the end I'm gonna say self.displaylabel.text equals %d persons deleted, and comma count. Oops. Had to do ns array again. I mean, not ns array, sorry, ns string. ns string with format at %d persons deleted. Alright, and the argument would be count. Alright, now it'll tell us how many persons was deleted. But if he's already been deleted, but it just didn't tell us. So let's look again. Alright, person there. No more if, but let me add it one more time just because last time it didn't get the effect that that I wanted to show you. So if the perfect add person. So there, I've just re-added myself. Look into our database. Actually, let me pull this database back to here so we don't have to switch back and forth. So I've just added myself. So look at the person there. Iffy the person got added. Iffy the perfect got added. Now we can do delete. So again, let's do what we did before. You want to delete if you delete it, no person deleted. You do iffy and then delete person. There, one person's deleted, and we can relook at the table. Now iffy the perfect is gone. Alright, now let's say we want to delete John and delete both of these, John Smith and John Doe. So first name we'll say John, we'll hit delete person. There are two persons deleted. Then look into our, refresh our table again. There, all the Johns are gone and only Jane Doe is left. Alright, well, that's the end of this tutorial. You have done the add person, where you add people to your database. You do a search person, where you search for people in your database, and you have deleted person. So those are your three basic operations that you would do in a database. And I know this tutorial is kind of long, but if you've made it this far, then I congratulate you for learning something new, and thanks for watching. And sorry I didn't get a chance to show you to subclass person, and maybe I will do that in the next tutorial if you keep watching, like how to subclass person. So let me know if you want to see that tutorial. So alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.